Elvis Presley was a man who transcended music. He became a cultural icon, a symbol of rebellion, youth, and above all, hope. For some, he was more than just a singer. He was a beacon of joy and solace. In the mid-1960s, during the height of Beatlemania, America was gripped by a fervor that mirrored the frenzy surrounding Elvis Presley. These young musicians captured the hearts of millions, becoming symbols of freedom, self-expression, and a break from tradition. Yet amid this adulation, there were whispers, criticisms, and warnings from older generations about the influence of rock and roll, its lyrics, its dance moves, and the very essence of rebellion it represented. Parents worried about their children emulating these counterculture figures. Religious groups saw immorality in the music, and society grappled with the changing times. It was in this atmosphere that two figures emerged, seemingly polar opposites, yet connected by an unexpected bond: Gladys Presley and John Winston Ono Lennon. Gladys, Elvis Presley's mother, and John Lennon's mother, Julia Lennon. Both women played pivotal roles in shaping the lives of their sons and their sons' impact on the world. Gladys Love Presley, born in 1912 in a small town called Tupelo, Mississippi, was a devout Christian woman who placed great importance on family, faith, and tradition. She married Vernon Elvis in 1935, and together they faced the joys and challenges of raising a son, Elvis Aaron Presley, while working as a poor sharecropper. When Elvis began showing interest in music, Gladys supported him wholeheartedly, even sewing curtains from his first performance. Her unwavering support and deep love for Elvis were central to his upbringing and undoubtedly influenced his early life choices. On the other side of the Atlantic, in Liverpool, England, was Julia Lennon. A fiercely independent spirit, she had a deep love for music, which she nurtured in her son John from an early age. Despite facing societal expectations and familial pressures, Julia's influence was instrumental in shaping John's character and artistic inclinations. Though John Lennon's relationship with his father was strained due to his abandonment and subsequent legal battles, he found solace and guidance in his mother's love and support. She was a guiding light in his life, offering him stability, understanding, and a foundation from which he could explore his dreams. Both Gladys and Julia were strong, resilient women who faced significant hardships. Gladys endured the loss of her twin daughters and the economic struggles of the Great Depression. Julia battled societal norms, parental disapproval, and eventually the trauma of losing her son in a car accident. Despite these tragedies, both women remained steadfast, drawing strength from their beliefs and their love for their families. When Elvis Presley burst onto the music scene, his unique style of singing and performing was immediately recognized as revolutionary. His energetic performances and suggestive dance moves were unlike anything seen before, making him both popular and controversial. In an era marked by conservatism and traditional values, Elvis challenged the status quo, shaking up the music industry and captivating the hearts of a new generation. John Lennon, on the other hand, found international fame as the lead singer and songwriter of the Beatles. With his bandmates, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr, he created some of the most iconic music of the 1960s. Their songs resonated with young people worldwide, addressing themes of love, peace, and societal issues, making the Beatles a cultural phenomenon. As Elvis and the Beatles gained popularity, their mothers became unwitting participants in the frenzy surrounding their sons. Gladys Presley, despite living a modest life in Memphis, Tennessee, found herself thrust into the spotlight. As Elvis's fame grew, she was often seen accompanying her son to events and award shows, becoming a familiar face in the tabloids. Julia Lennon, too, was drawn into the whirlwind success of the Beatles, though she never quite embraced the full glare of publicity. The paths of these two remarkable women intersected not on a grand stage or in a tabloid headline, but in the quiet confines of a Liverpool hospital room. Neither Gladys nor Julia knew much about each other's sons or the music they made. Yet when fate brought them together, there was an immediate connection. During one of Elvis's tours in the UK in the mid-1960s, he developed a serious illness. Rumors swirled about the nature of his ailment, but the truth was that he had fallen gravely ill with a virus, prompting his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, to seek medical help. Colonel Parker, knowing that Elvis's condition was serious, reached out to Dr. Robert C. H. Findlater, a respected physician who had previously treated American celebrities visiting the UK. Dr. Findlater, upon examination, diagnosed Elvis with acute infectious hepatitis and informed Colonel Parker that the singer needed complete bed rest and a change of scenery. Meanwhile, unaware of Elvis's health crisis, Julia Lennon was going about her daily life in Liverpool. Her son, John, was busy with the Beatles, touring, recording, and achieving new heights of success. Life was full of promise, and Julia was looking forward to spending a quiet weekend at home. But that weekend would turn out to be anything but ordinary. As fate would have it, Colonel Parker decided to send Elvis to recuperate at Julia's house in Liverpool. This unusual arrangement came as a shock to both Gladys and Julia, who had no prior knowledge of each other or their son's enormous impact on the world of entertainment. Gladys Presley, upon learning of Colonel Parker's decision, expressed her shock and worry to friends and family. Sending her son to recover at the home of a complete stranger was an unprecedented idea. Still, trusting her son's manager, she hoped that Elvis would receive the care he needed. Julia Lennon, too, was caught off guard. When Elvis arrived at her doorstep, she was initially confused and somewhat apprehensive. The famous singer staying in her modest home was an extraordinary situation, and she wondered how she would manage. Despite her initial surprise, Julia's warm and welcoming nature took over. She greeted Elvis with kindness, understanding the immense pressure and illness he was facing. When Elvis Presley arrived at Julia Lennon's house in Liverpool, he was met with a mixture of curiosity, kindness, and an overwhelming dose of reality. The famous singer, accustomed to adoring crowds and lavish surroundings, was now stepping into the humble abode of a woman he had never met. This unexpected twist of fate was part of a plan by his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, who hoped to provide Elvis with a low-key recovery from his illness, away from the prying eyes of the press. For Elvis, staying with Julia Lennon was a stark contrast to his usual lifestyle. He went from performing on grand stages to resting in a simple Liverpool home. Instead of the roar of crowds, he was greeted by the quiet hum of everyday life. During his stay, Elvis experienced a temporary respite from the pressures of fame. He was not the object of intense media scrutiny or the constant demands of his fans. In a way, it was a chance to be just Elvis, an opportunity to relax and recover without the weight of adulation bearing down on him. However, this period of quiet was not without its challenges. Elvis was battling a serious illness and needed constant care and rest. At the same time, he was staying in a place completely unfamiliar, far from the comforts of his own home in Memphis, Tennessee. Despite these difficulties, Elvis showed resilience and gratitude. He understood the kindness Julia Lennon was showing him, and his attitude was one of appreciation and cooperation. As the days passed, Elvis slowly started to recover. Under Dr. Findlater's watchful eye and Julia's attentive care, he regained his strength, and the virus that had laid him low began to subside. This recovery wasn't just physical. Staying in Liverpool provided him with a mental break from the pressures of his career. One of the most interesting aspects of this period in Elvis's life is the unlikely bond he formed with Julia Lennon. Although their son's music was immensely popular, especially in the UK, Elvis and Julia were not particularly attuned to the Beatles' music. However, what they lacked in musical familiarity, they made up for in human connection. In the shared experience of hosting Elvis, Julia Lennon and Gladys Presley discovered common ground, forming an unlikely friendship. Both women were strong, resilient individuals who had raised their sons to be compassionate and driven. They bonded over their shared love for their boys, the challenges of raising them in the public eye, and the worries that came with Elvis's illness. As Elvis recovered, the three of them, along with Dr. Findlater, enjoyed quiet evenings at home, playing board games, watching television, and sharing stories. These were simple, down-to-earth moments that provided a comforting normalcy to Elvis's life during a time when everything else was anything but normal. For Julia Lennon and Gladys Presley, this unexpected interlude in their lives was not just about taking care of a famous singer. It was about human connection, empathy, and the realization that fame and fortune do not shield one from life's complexities and vulnerabilities. After several weeks of rest and recuperation, Elvis Presley's health was sufficiently improved for him to return to the United States. His time spent in Liverpool had been not just a period of recovery from illness, but also a humbling experience. Away from the bright lights and screaming fans, he had reconnected with the simple joys of life and the importance of human relationships. Before leaving, he bid farewell to Julia Lennon and thanked her for her kindness and care. This goodbye was not just a departure from a host and guest, it was the end of a unique chapter in Elvis's life. Upon his return to Memphis, Elvis was greeted with the same frenzy that had become his trademark. Yet something had changed. The experience in Liverpool had brought him a renewed sense of perspective. He was still the charismatic performer, but perhaps a bit wiser, a bit more reflective. His career continued to thrive, and he remained a dominant force in the music industry. However, the memory of his stay in Liverpool and the friendship he forged with Julia Lennon and Gladys Presley lingered. As Elvis's career progressed and his fame grew, he often reminisced about his stay in Liverpool. He spoke fondly of Julia Lennon's hospitality and the down-to-earth nature of his time there. This was a side of his life rarely seen by the public, a glimpse into the heart of the man behind the legend. Gladys Presley, too, carried fond memories of their time in Liverpool. She often mentioned Julia Lennon with warmth and admiration, appreciating the support and care she had shown her son during his illness. The bond between these two women, who had come from different worlds and had never imagined crossing paths, remained strong. They shared a special connection, united by their love for their sons and the unique circumstances that had brought them together. Julia Lennon, meanwhile, returned to her ordinary life in Liverpool. Though she had played host to one of the world's biggest stars, she didn't dwell on the experience. She was a woman of simple pleasures, finding joy in everyday moments and cherishing the memories she had made. The story of Elvis Presley staying with Julia Lennon and forming an unlikely bond with her and Gladys Presley is a testament to the power of human connection. Amidst the glitz and glamour of rock and roll, it was a simple act of kindness and hospitality that stood out. In the annals of rock and roll history, Elvis Presley's name shines brightly. His music, his charisma, and his impact on popular culture continue to resonate across generations. Yet amidst the deafening applause and the adoring crowds, there were moments of quiet reflection, of simplicity, and of human connection that truly defined the essence of this iconic singer. One such moment was his stay with Julia Lennon in Liverpool, an event that not only provided him with temporary respite, but also offered a glimpse into a more